Hi everyone, welcome back to our Facebook Live presentations, and this week we are going to talk about dyspraxia. This is also known as developmental coordination disorder, but let's talk a little bit about why that might be misleading when you're thinking about identifying children who have praxis deficits and how to look at their behaviors in school and the way that they do tasks on a daily basis to be able to figure out what's going on and how best to support them. So as we go back to school, a lot of teams are often focused on diagnosis that they feel are educationally relevant. And developmental coordination disorder doesn't always come on that list of educational relevance. But there is a lot of discussion around executive function deficits or maybe fine motor delays or things like that when it really could be part of a bigger problem, and that maybe we can address the needs in a different way so that we can better support a child who has a praxis deficit. So the first thing I want to talk about is what is praxis in the first place. So praxis is the ability to generate ideas in variation and high frequency about what to do with your body and what to do with objects in the environment. And then to be able to take those ideas, put them together into a plan of action, and then be able to execute. So this could be usually around up to 3 steps. When we get more than 3 steps, we're looking at more executive function processes being incorporated into the thought process of planning and organizing your daily routines. So today, I'm just going to focus on ideational praxis, that ability to come up with the ideas of what to do with your body and what to do with objects in the environment. So ideational praxis, when you think about your body, is, all right, how many different things can I do? Am I the child that only jumps or only runs around and plays tag at recess every day, or is really big into climbing onto everything? Or am I someone who has a lot of variety in the way that I move my body? I can run, jump, climb, skip, hop, and I'm always trying out different ways to use my body to navigate the environment. When you don't have good knowledge of your body, or you have a sensory processing deficit and you're not getting feedback to your body, then it's a lot harder to figure out new ways to move and how to motor plan different ways to do things. So these children often look very restricted in the way that they play. They may play in a much more kind of sensory-based way. They're always crashing or they're always running. They're doing the same motor plan over and over again, and it doesn't really seem very goal-directed, or that they're ever really stringing it into multi-step activities. The child who has an ideational praxis deficit as related to objects has a lot of trouble getting feedback and understanding how objects work. So we think about those things as affordances. Affordances are all the ways that you can use an object. So for example, let's take this pen. Normally, this pen is for writing. However, you at any moment can find someone fidgeting or spinning or maybe tapping it on a surface or chewing on it, tucking it behind your ear. These are all things that your body kind of does on an automatic level that you're not really thinking about. And all of those are object ideas. It is throwable, it's flippable, it's tappable, it's put on your headable. Any able that you can think of is something that an object can do. But a lot of our kids maybe are only using an object in a singular way, or they're very rigid. No, a block is a block is a block, and it can never be anything else but a block. Or when they go to interact with those objects, they find that the objects don't really work the way they expect. So maybe they're pulling and using a lot of force instead of really looking and saying, oh, I have to twist this, I have to move it in a different way than I first thought to be able to get it open or to be able to get the things out of the box. Some of these children also look very impulsive when they're moving through the environment because they're just jumping onto different equipment and not really anticipating what's going to happen. They don't know that the swing isn't that stable, or that they're stepping onto something that looks like a block, but it's really a foam block and it's very soft, so they're going to trip and fall over. So these children, we worry about their safety because they appear to be impulsive and disorganized because they don't really know how to effectively use and interact with objects in their environment. Separately, you could also see, I see this a lot for children on the spectrum, when they go to write, it seems like they don't use any pressure on the pen, almost like it's a foreign object in their hand. And this is actually true. If you don't know how to manipulate and use the object, you're not going to generate a motor intention. You're not going to know how much force that you need to interact with the object, and you're not going to have a plan of what to do with the object. So maybe they have really great grip strength and they can grab onto things and they don't want to let go, but you give them a pen and it seems like they have no muscle strength at all. So reframe your thought process on this. It's not a force modulation issue. It really might be related to them not having an idea of what to do with the tool or object that they're holding in their hand. And you really need to be able to have good sensory feedback from all your systems to be able to get information from your body and from objects in your environment so that you can know how to play more effectively and act and interact with the world in a much more goal-directed way. If you can't do this, your interactions with materials might be very brief. You're picking up a lot of stuff, but you're never really playing. You stick to the same repetitive things over and over again. You wait for a demonstration. You wait for someone else to create the idea, and then you follow them. Or you might be really reliant on pictures for supports, and when those pictures are gone, you just don't even know what to do next. So in the school environment, this can lead to behaviors like rigidity or inflexibility, impulsivity, looking like you're off task, never really, cueing in to what's happening during a transition, really struggling with downtime or playground time where you have to actually come up with some of the ideas on your own, especially if you're not good at following your peers. And maybe doing things that seem like seeking behaviors, but it's really sort of a lack of goal-directed behavior. So you're just kind of moving from one thing to the next. These children sometimes get labeled as unsafe, impulsive. They'll do things not really knowing what's going to happen. So let's say they throw a rock, but they're not hitting the child because they're maliciously throwing a rock at them. They really don't know that their throwing is going to result in hurting someone. And so these are all the things that you need to think about, because sometimes behavior is intentional and some of it really is maybe an impulsive strategy to explore the environment, but not really getting enough feedback to understand the consequences or anticipate what's going to happen when you do something. So I also want to encourage you, if you're working with a child who has an ideational praxis deficit, to not just fill in the gaps with pictures all the time for them, or give them the sequence or give them everything that they're supposed to do, because they do need to develop the ability to visualize ideas and come up with things on their own so that they can have a motor intention and intentionally interact with the world in a goal-directed way to explore and get feedback. So creativity only really comes when you're looking away from something. If you're staring at a bunch of pictures or a game on a screen, for example, then it's much more likely that you're relying on the visual input that's coming in rather than coming up with the ideas and acting on your environment. So think about ideational praxis as a cognitive process that really requires your body and all of your senses to explore and gain adequate feedback about your world so that you can expand your bank of ideas of how you're going to really act with intention and be successful within the world. So this leads to higher level organizational skills, goal-directed behavior, and success in life if you really have a good foundation of coming up with ideas for your body and ideas for use of objects in your environment. And that's really how you get creativity and innovative ideas to come to life. So we don't really want to be focused on maybe some of what we perceive as negative behaviors around the ideational praxis, but shift your focus to helping the child learn how to explore their environment in a more purposeful way by modeling, by saying, oh, I could do this with this object. What can you do with it? Or let's figure out how to get across the room without touching the ground to rescue our favorite superhero. Or, oh no, we already tried that idea. What else can we do with our bodies? And really try to get them to practice using their bodies in as many different ways as possible, and practice labeling. Is something hard? Is something soft? Is it big? Is it small? Because all of that language then gets reflected in their ability to understand directions, what people are asking of them, and to make sense of what their body is supposed to do based on information and verbal questions and things like that that are coming at them from the outside world. One thing I really do want to mention before I wrap up this Facebook Live is screen time. Screen time is an inevitable part of life for all of our children of this digital generation, but we're trading natural movement for more time engaging with a two-dimensional, highly visual screen. And we're also getting things that are mostly done for you and are very high reward with low effort. So our children who have motor deficits at baseline, they really gravitate towards screens and gaming and things like that because it's a quick win for them. They don't have to work very hard. They don't have to use a lot of their language. There's a lot that's already visual and already done for them that they can engage with and feel positive while they're interacting. So I really encourage you to make sure that you are helping your child find that balance between engaging in those movement opportunities that are going to develop ideation and creativity and more active, intentional, goal-directed behavior, and the time that they're spending on screens engaging in fun activities and the other things that their peers might be doing, or even the types of games that they're doing academically to help with their reading and math skills and things like that. Because it's so important in this generation especially to teach visualization, to teach self-reflection, to be able to have a child close their eyes, visualize what they want to do, and then go back out into the world in a much more focused and goal-directed way. Otherwise, you end up always being on everyone else's plan, and you become very prompt dependent, just waiting for the next thing to be told to you, but still struggling with your behavior and being able to function at a more independent level. And this is really important to address at the elementary level if you can, because you want to make sure that your child is set up for success when they go into a middle school environment, and then all of a sudden they're asked to have much more independent work behaviors, to stay on task for longer, to manage their materials better. So if you're going to fade a lot of those executive function supports, like having picture sequences and things like that, then you want to make sure you're also replacing it with activities that are going to build those visualization skills so that your child can be more independent and act in a much more goal-directed way. So stay with me. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be talking about sequencing praxis and execution and what those sorts of things look like as it relates to learning. And I'm also going to be putting up a free download that will be available to you specifically to help you understand a little bit more about dyspraxias and ideas to work with children with dyspraxias at home and in the school environment, even if it's not built into the goals that are written on their IEP. So stay with me. I'll be back with more information next week, and I hope you have a great, great holiday weekend. Click on the link above if you want to visit our Dyspraxia page just to read a little bit more ahead of the game. We have lots of great resources that we connected you to, and also some downloadable information pages there as well. I'm Aubrey Schmalley, occupational therapist and owner of Sensational Achievements, and I will see you next week.